Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the play Silence the Court is in Session by Vijay Tendulkar. The play is actually written in Marathi and later translated to English. It is a satire on patriarchy, gender roles in Indian society, and a woman's fight against humiliation of womanhood. Miss Leela Benari is the chief protagonist of the play, and she is the projection of Tendulkar's new woman who raises her voice against injustice and unfolds the hypocrisy of middle class male dominated society. In this video, we will discuss a brief summary, themes, characters, simples, and a few important questions from the play. So let's see the play in detail. First of all, let me introduce the characters in the play. The protagonist of the play is Miss Leela Benari, is presented as an extraordinary and crucial character in the play. And she is a young middle class woman of 34 years who works as a teacher to earn her livelihood. She is punctual, dedicated, and is loved and appreciated by her students in the school in every respect. Despite her previous failure in love with her maternal uncle, she fell in love with Professor Damley. She is also a member of the amateur theatre group. Other members in the play are Mr. Kashikar, who is referred to as the chairman of the group by Benari, and he becomes the judge in the mock trial, and a dominant husband who always tries to silence his wife. Mrs. Kashikar is known only under the surname of her husband, and she is a typical Indian housewife dependent on her husband for everything. Samant is a mild mannered and friendly young man, and he is the villager who comes to arrange the hall for the actors, and later he becomes a part of the play. He talks in a way that shows his complete innocence, and he is not a professional, but he is honest, helpful, and compassionate. Mr. Sugdami, an unpopular lawyer who supports the belief that women are not fit for independence, and he plays a vital role in the prosecution of Benari. Balu Rockde. He is an orphan college student who is taken care by Mrs. Kashikar for his studies, clothing, etc., and he accompanies Kashikar and obeys their order. Pongshe, a failed academic who works as a clerk at the Central Telegraph Office. Karnik, an experimental, unsuccessful theatre actor and a member of the courtroom, and he presents himself as an expert in intimate theatre. Professor Damley is a bookish intellectual who has a wife and 5 children. Even then, he started an affair with Benari, eventually resulted in her pregnancy. However, he was only interested in her body and not her mind. And he is a selfish figure whose only concern is himself and his family. And he has an invisible presence in the play but plays a significant role in giving a final shape to the play. Next, we are moving on to a brief summary of the play. The story revolves around a group of aspiring actors who gather for a rehearsal in a community hall. When the play begins, Miss Leela Benare and a young villager make their way to a meeting room in a small Indian village. She is one of the actors in the play and the protagonist within the play. The inner play is a kind of mock court trial. Thereafter, the other members of the group enter at the community hall, but one of the members, Professor Damley, is missing. Samant, a local village man, is helping them in the hall and he is enthusiastic about his role in the play. To give Samant an idea of how the courtroom functions, all the members decide to stage a mock trial for him. He informs Benare about the mock trial which is going to take place in the hall. Sukdame plays the role of lawyer and Kashika the judge. Kashika declares that a charge with social significance will be leveled against the accused. Sukdame suggests Benare as the chief accused, and the crime they are accusing her of is infanticide. Pongshe then announces that she has been arrested on suspicion of a crime of extremely grave nature. Benari is disturbed and startled by the accusation leveled against her. Sukdame and Kashika glorify and highlight the significance of motherhood and the fixed values and identity defined for an Indian woman. After a long speech about motherhood, they start to cross examine Benari. Sukhdame questions Rockday to know about the relation between Benari and Professor Damley. Then the entire court scene degenerates into a series of discussions focusing on Benari's personal life. During the mock trial, the co-actors skillfully expose Benari's private life and cunningly reveal her illegal relation with Professor Damley. Thus, the mock trial begins to blend with real life. At first, she has taken everything lightly, but as the play proceeds, with much allegation against her, she becomes agitates and protests to stop the discussion about her private life. The trial continues and Benari is becoming increasingly serious. They want to know the reason why she is unmarried even at the age of 32. However, everyone is making comments upon Benari's singlehood. As the trial goes on, all the witnesses and the authorities become hostile towards Miss Leela Benari on the charge of unmarried motherhood and having illicit relation with so many people. The judge, Mr. Kashikar, does not stop the lawyer, and Sukdame continues and says as it is just for the trial. Even though she is agitated, he argues it as games great fun. They tries to agitate by asking Rockday to explain the incidents that happened in Professor Damley's house. And Benare becomes more frantic and begins to cry. Sanath is surprised by the trial and the sudden change in the behavior of Benare. She bursts into tears and tries to go out of the hall, but the door is closed and her attempt fails. Sukdame and Kashika behave more formally and wear their robes in order to increase the gravity and dignity. They ask her to take the oath since it is merely a game. However, Mrs. Kashika criticizes and tortures modern educated women like Miss Benare instead of giving her support. Moreover, all male members in the mock play enjoyed the humiliation of Miss Benare. Benare speaks up many times to defend herself against the misconceptions leveled upon her, but everything in vain. Kashika later announces that Benare is pregnant before marriage and it is a great sin. So, it is immoral to let the teacher to teach in the school and she should be dismissed from the service. Sukdami accuses Benare of having made a heinous blot on the sacred brow of motherhood. On the other hand, women are responsible for building up society's values instead of spreading immorality. And Kashika gives Benare the chance to speak for 10 seconds. Miss Leela Benare tries to defend herself through a long soliloquy. And Benare's soliloquy allows the audience to view her situation from a different perspective. Benare untravels her search for true and genuine love and her love of teaching, her commitment to raise her child. Miss Benare is in search of true and genuine love. However, her own maternal uncle and Professor Damley loved only her body rather than her mind. She has many things to reveal to the world, but she has remained silent for the last few years. And now she realizes the value of life after her failed suicidal attempt. But now she is very grateful for her body since she is carrying her child with her. And Kashika announces her time is over and she should abort her child to prevent the sin from being passed on to the future generation. Benare screams and cries and falls to the floor in the hall. And then everybody becomes silent. Thus, the mock trial ends and everybody engages in the discussion as if they were having a great time. Benari and Samant remain on stage and the curtain falls. Next, we are moving on to the discussion of the significance of the title. Tendulkar satirically attacks the society and the court with the title Silence, the Court is in Session. The title gives a unique significance mainly due to the silence imposed upon Benari. The words of the title are very common in law courts where the honorable judge pronounced the words to bring back order and decorum. It indicates the supreme authority of the judge in the court to decide the manners of others. Before the mock trial, Benari is very active, sings, and makes comments on the nature of other fellow mates. But Benari becomes silent by Kashikar's interrogative statement, "You are accused of infanticide." Furthermore, the judge cautions the Benari to be silent whenever she interrupts. Even though she is forced to be silent by the word silence, she breaks the forced silence upon her through her brilliant monologue, where she asserts her confidence and desires, and uncompromisingly independent in eloquent terms. Through her eloquence, she unfolds the hypocrisy of the male chauvinist society. Kashikar uses the same power of silence when his wife starts to raise her opinion. The irony is that no silence or discipline maintained in the court. The court is a symbol of the attitude of the judge who is in charge of discharging humanitarian concern over the victims, but here it terribly lacks and concerns and views, and everything is seen in patriarchal mindset. Kashika, the judge, should not be prejudiced, but he is just the opposite, and the judgment itself is cunning. It is an interesting attempt by Tendulkar to criticize the meanness, follies, and hypocrisy that prevail in our judicial procedure. Next, we are moving on to the themes of the play. First one is it is a critique of gender discrimination. The trial highlights the existence of societal prejudices and power dynamics, with Benare being judged and shamed for her actions, while the men in the group escape any consequences. The play is a critique of the societal norms and gender roles that restrict women's agency and perpetuate patriarchal attitudes. The act of committing adultery involves equal responsibility from both the male and the female partners. However, in conventional Indian society, only the woman is held responsible, revealing the power dynamics and manipulation that occur. This further highlights the subjugated and downtrodden condition of women in such a society. Overall, the play presents a subaltern voice. Next is victimization. Benare, a bold and successful working woman with her own individuality, falls victim to the false male ego of superiority. Despite being superior to her friends in many ways, she is accused of infanticide in a mock trial to cover up the frustration. The trial exposes the hypocrisy and double standards of society, isolating her and making her a victim of cunningly arranged game by her co-actors. Mockery of the judicial system. The dramatist attempts to satirize the judicial system of India from the beginning of the play. Despite the judge being expected to be unbiased, Kashika is the opposite and the judgment itself is cunning. The irony lies in the crime and the punishment. Additionally, Professor Damley, the father of the illegitimate child, is absent throughout the proceedings, leaving Benare as the only accused. Next, we are moving on to the symbols that are used in the play. First one is a parrot. It is a symbol of innocence, truth-telling, and powerful self-reflection, and it represents Samant in the play. Sparrow is a small in size but energetic, creative, wise, and it represents Benare. Sparrow's nest. The sparrow's sorrowful song is because her nest has been stolen, and a nest is a place where eggs are laid and kept safe. This symbolism reflects Benare and her child, who are vulnerable and in need of protection. The locked door is symbolic of Leela's inability to escape from the room and the torture of others. Leela Benare itself is a symbol. She is symbolic of new woman liberated from the clutches of past. Mrs. Kashika is a symbol of traditional subjugation and strength of patriarchal structure. Professor Damley, a symbolic of escapism and double standard of a typical middle class man. Silence itself is a symbol, and we have already mentioned the significance of silence in the previous slides. So, I think there is no need to describe in detail. So, next is motherhood, and here Benari is found violating the pre established rules of purity and sacredness that are often specified in the play as a propaganda of set rules regarding motherhood. Next, we are moving on to a few important questions from the play. First one, what is the original title of Tendulkar's play written in Marathi? Answer is Shantada Caught Chalu Ahe. The play is based on a short story by the Swiss writer Frederick Dürrenmatt, and the short story is Die Panne, written in 1956. Its English translation titled Traps. The play was first staged in 1967. The play was actually written in Marathi and later it was translated to English by Priya Adarkar, who made a film based on Shantata Kaur Chalu Ahe, for which Vijay Tendulkar wrote the first screenplay, Satyadev Dubey, in 1971. Which dramatic technique is used by Tendulkar in the play? Mock trial, or a play within a play. What is the name of the amateur theatre group gathered at the community hall to perform the mock trial? The Sana Moti Tenement Bombay Progressive Association. How many acts are there in the play? There are 3 acts. When the play begins, Samant carries a lock and key, a toy parrot, and a book. Who says life must belong to the individual who is living it and that every moment is precious? Leela Benare to Samant. Who is the young man who earns enough to keep body and soul together, in his own words is Raghu Samant. Who is the hand that rocks the cradle, mentioned by Benare? Mrs. Kashika. Although she is given this epithet, she has no children of her own. The use of a married title Mrs. and her husband's surname are the only way in which she is represented throughout the play. Who accuses Benare having made a heinous blot on the sacred brow of motherhood and calls her public enemy number 1? Sukhdame, the lawyer. We have acknowledged women as mother of mankind. These are the words of Sukhdame. Who is the scientist in Silence the Court is in Session? Mr. Pongshe. Who has a desire to leave everyone behind and go somewhere far, far away with you? Benare to Samant. In the mock trial, the penalty imposed on Leela Benare was abortion. You have deliberately ganged up against me. You have plotted against me. Who says in the play? Miss Leela Benare. During the mock trial, the witness is taking the oath touching the Oxford English Dictionary. Dear friends, here ends the discussion of the play Silence the Court is in Session. So I hope you got an idea about the play. Thank you.